welcome to my presentation on how it feels to be a not very regular YouTuber. So I now have 1,000 subscribers, and I made a video previously saying I would make a video about getting 1,000 subscribers. And that's this video. So what I've decided to do is talk about things and not a lot else. So as a lot of this video is going to just be me reading your comments, I'm going to need a computer. Jump cut. So I guess the first thing to talk about is why did I start doing YouTube? Well, a few years ago I found a YouTube channel called Dogged Fabrication, and I thought it was bloody hilarious. So if you want to see a channel of videos done better than mine in a similar style, check that out. It's there. Also, you might think whenever I point up to refer to another video, it's me trying to be funny by pointing in the wrong direction. But it's not, I just make the same mistake every single time. Anyway, another contributing factor is that I met a few people who already do YouTube channels. Anyway, before I made any videos, I met Shad Donahue, and you might have seen him as the guy with the 76 in some of Tyler Thompson's videos. And I gave him a few of my products to test out, and while we were talking, he pretty much convinced me to just get on with it and stop thinking about it. So that's what I did, and the result was that really cringe-worthy Balbone Gap video that I did. Anyway, that's enough of this boring nonsense. Let's talk about comments from people. So what I'll do is I'll start by reading the stuff from the last 1,000 subscriber hinting video, because unfortunately I said I'd read everything from there. And here it is. So, John Fitzgerald says, "Ha ha 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 ha. Strange smiley face. Thanks." So there's a couple of questions now that I'll combine the efforts of. First one being, where are you from originally? And the other one is, what do you do for a living? So in case you haven't guessed, I'm not from around here. I am in fact European and from this toxic little country. And this is where I became a high school dropout working as a snowboarding instructor. And from there, I got an apprenticeship as a mechanical fitter / turner, working on all kinds of marvelous things that kill people. Now, after a while, I decided that this wasn't really for me, and I thought I'd go to the other side of the world. And the choice was America or Australia. And the deciding factor for me was that Australia drives on the same side of the road as England, and that was it. So I went to Australia. From there, got a mechanical engineering degree, and started working as a design engineer for a company making the cars I used to build in the UK. And after a very short amount of time and disagreeing with the whole business ethic of the place, I decided to start my own business, and I'm currently in the very out of the public eye industry of experimental engine design, where I'm currently developing a hybrid engine that runs on compressed air as well as combustible fuels. But there'll be more on that in a few years' time if you stick around long enough, because this stuff takes a little bit of time. Although in the foreseeable future, like the next financial year, there will be some pretty cool videos involving prototype testing. Now on the sidelines, I do tend to develop a few products that solve the problems that I have that aren't currently solved by the industry. And these are things like camping stuff, 76 series parts, motorcycle rear sets, things like that. And that's the stuff that you can buy that I make available online. Now while I'm a bit internetly challenged, I haven't managed to set up an online store yet, because firstly I have no idea how, and secondly I haven't really had the time to do it. But that's the sort of thing that's going to be happening in the future. So all these weird little things you see bolted to my vehicles are actually going to be buyable. Now some of them actually are, and you can find them in the Facebook shop, which is probably in the description now if I remember to do it. So if you're interested in that nonsense, have a look at it. Anyway, moving on. Will your video editing improve anytime soon? All those jump cuts are giving me epileptic seizures. Are you trying to say that you don't like all these jump cuts? Do they not make my videos enjoyable? Well, that's not going to change anytime soon, simply because talking to a camera is the most awkward thing in the world for me. And whenever you see a jump cut, it means that I screwed something up somewhere. So enjoy flopping around on the floor. Would be interesting to hear about your previous cars. Well, my first car was one of these. Yes, that's me. And yes, it has 3 wheels. And yes, it is as dangerous as it sounds, and it's probably the reason why you Australians aren't allowed to drive them in this country. Anyway, next up was one of these. I also had one of these. which I then proceeded to get horribly stuck at Balbone Gap with my mother. And the result of that was that we had to walk several kilometers to the nearest town and then arrange to get pulled out. And I haven't lived it down since. And the more recent one is this one, Nissan Navara. I actually loved this car, and it was fantastic. It was the most modified thing you could ever imagine, and I paid almost nothing for it. And you can probably see a lot of the extras on it are now also on the 76, just because I stole them. This car also got bogged at Balbone Gap, and over the next 2 years decided to gradually fall apart as a result. So all the gearbox seals, gearbox bearings, drive shafts did not react too well to the gritty mud that got into it. And the plan was to rebuild the gearbox, transfer case, differentials, and then carry on with my life. But what ended up happening is when I was towing all this stuff up to the workshop, the engine decided it wanted to consume all of its oil in a very short amount of time. So I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll just rebuild it as normal and deal with the engine later. So after the entire driveline was rebuilt, I started rebuilding the engine, and failed to notice a hairline crack in the block, which ended up with the whole car pretty much being scrapped. And as a rebuilt gearbox is worth no more than a second-hand gearbox, it was a complete waste of time and money, and the result is a 76 and a 78 series that you now see today. This is something different. Keep it going. Yes. Do you think you'll do a collab with other YouTubers? To be honest, at this stage, I'm going to say no, simply because being around a camera is so horribly awkward and exacerbated by other people being around. If you want to see some awkwardness, check out the video where my troopy got painted. And while I've known these guys for a while, it was still a horribly uncomfortable experience. But while I don't really want to do videos with other people, I think going on trips and things like that when cameras aren't involved is perfectly fine. Damn, this is frustrating. Keep checking in to see if you're there yet, and while it says 1k subs in this post, on the channel it says 999. Hopefully by the time you're up and about in the morning you'll be there. Keep up the good work. You've done it. By the way, why did you get a Jeep? To be honest, I have no idea. If you see my last video, you'll know that it was a horrible decision and they're a lot of work and really horrible to work on. So if you have a Jeep, get rid of it. Yeah, awesome mate, you're going good, love your videos. Use code CHAD15 for a discount on Rax Brax. So when can we expect the collaboration with Andrew St. Pierre White? Well, I have the suspicious feeling I'll probably run into him one day. I wonder if he'll be at the Sydney 4-wheel drive show. Now, you'll have to bear with me on this comment because it's pretty hard to understand. But I checked out his channel and it's extremely wholesome, so you should probably watch it too. Why only 76 series? Was that due to the third door and space or diesel versus petrol argument? We'll love your views on that. And last thing, what fridge you choose? So I think this is 3 questions. Firstly, why only 76 series? Was that due to third door? I can only assume he's asking, why did I get the 78 series? Was it because of the third door? Well, it was a contributing factor. I had planned to make a pretty interesting build, and having a third door gives you a whole other dimension to work with. And as you can see, the result wasn't too bad. So next part, diesel versus petrol argument. Well, I'm a little bit biased, seeing as I only own diesel cars, apart from a Suzuki Jimny, which doesn't really count as a car. Now obviously I'm verging on the diesel side, because it's more fuel efficient, and there's less finicky electricals to go wrong. And last thing, what fridge you choose? Well, in the 76 I've got an Engel, which is probably older than I am, and it's still working as if it was new. So I'd probably choose an Engel. But then in the 78 I've got a Brass Monkey fridge, and while it seemed pretty good on the first impressions, it's actually pretty noisy. With Engel probably being at the top of the list, closely followed by other things like Evercool and Waco, but I'm not 4-wheel drive action, and I don't promote fridges, so if you want to have some horrendous advertising shoved down your throats, then head to their channel. What are you going to do with the YouTube windfall when it comes? I'm going to spend it all on Robux, and maybe buy a pen. Fapura Touring asks, are you USB-C rechargeable? I don't really know. Want to go on a short 4B trip with another 76? You could bring the troopy if you wanted to. I live near Newcastle. I guess going back to the will I collaborate with other YouTubers thing, I'm open to going on trips and stuff, but probably not videoing stuff with other people. I didn't want to misinterpret that as an invite, so I'll just leave it at that. Why do you have a 76 and a troopy? Teach me how my wife will allow for this. Well, the simple answer is get rid of your wife and then you'll be allowed to do whatever you want. See you on the flip side, motherfucker. Ha ha ha. Yes. Fingal Frog asks, where did he come from? Well, John, I think you come from Belleville. How do I know this? And I guess the last question I'll go over, which people ask me rather than commenting, is will I be replacing the 76 with the 78? And the answer to that is a hard no, simply because it's physically more capable than the Troopy. And I'm sure that's going to ruffle a few feathers, but I can explain why, and why I say physically, and it's because of the center of mass. And a lot of people throw the center of mass argument around, but they probably don't actually know what it means. So I'll try and explain in horrible ways using MS Paint and my usual shitty animations. So basically, you've got short cars and you've got tall cars, and you can pretty much simplify them as a square. And a tall car can probably be simplified as a rectangle. Now if we assume the center of mass is right in the middle, you can see how this works. So the center of mass is basically always pointing to the center of the Earth. Now as soon as that center of mass line passes over the lowest point of contact on the car's going to tip over. Anyway, that's why I keep the 76 over the 78, because it's a more capable vehicle. Fight below. So what have I experienced in this time as a YouTuber? Well, to be honest, it hasn't been that bad. It's taken me about 9 months to get to the point where I'm making money out of YouTube, and right now I'm sitting on 1,011 subscribers. Now the comments in the audience are generally a completely mixed bag, ranging from absolute idiots to people who actually provide meaningful feedback on videos. Like with my troop carrier video, there was one thing where I made a mistake with the electricals, people pointed it out, and then it was fixed, and everything was good. And then you get the people at the other side of the spectrum who are like Andrew St. Pierre White fanboys who just comment absolute trash for no reason whatsoever. Well, would you look at that? It's now the evening, as if by magic. This is because I decided to go and get a Foxwing awning for the Troopy off Facebook Marketplace. And here it is. Pretty good, right? Also, I forgot 2 more questions. Firstly, do I pump money into keeping an older 4-wheel drive healthy and kicking, plus ongoing mods for off-roading? Is it dead money? Or pump money into financing a new 4-wheel drive, plus all the other bare minimum mods you have to do to get it off-road ready? Snorkel, extended breathers, bigger tires, etc. Discuss. Well, that's a very subjective question now, isn't it? We don't even know what you're driving. I'd say if it's a petrol, don't bother, scrap it and get something new. But if it's a diesel that's got a mechanical fuel pump like a VE or something like that, then definitely keep it, because they certainly don't make them like that anymore, and they're really simple to fault find if you do have any problems with it. The other thing is, whatever money you spend on a 4-wheel drive is pretty much wasted money anyway, whether it's a new one or an old one. It doesn't really increase the value of the vehicle. So if you've got to finance anything, don't even think about it, because it's a waste of money. If you're even considering financing a vehicle, you've already answered your own question, because if you're financing it, then you can't afford it, so don't bother. Stick to spending what you can on your older 4-wheel drive, because to be honest, if my Navara hadn't blown up due to my own stupidity, I'd probably still have it to this day. And the last question I'll go through today, are you a ginger beer? Ask your mother.